Ladies and gentlemen, instead, 2 weeks ago, the airspace of Poland, our neighbour and ally, was seriously violated by Russian drones. A flagrant violation of sovereignty, international law and direct threat to shared Euro-Atlantic security, equally as we saw it also in Estonia and Romania. I want to express my firm support and solidarity with our allies. The door open to negotiations should never be mistaken for weakness or an invitation to further violence. Today, the world is becoming a more dangerous place than it was before. Innocent people, elderly, children and women suffer because of war. It is not an anomaly, it is a structural shift. This is the reality, ladies and gentlemen. The Security Council, to which we have entrusted the greatest powers and special responsibility for maintaining peace, cannot pretend that it's succeeding. It's failing. The war in Ukraine reminds us daily how fragile peace is when the UN Charter is disregarded and international law is ignored. As its neighbour, Slovakia witnesses the immense cost of this war. Sadly, despite all efforts towards a peaceful settlement, Ukraine must defend itself against Russia. This is despite the groundwork for diplomatic talks being set at the US-Russia summit in Alaska, despite the clear agreement that negotiations would soon continue with Ukraine being included. Ladies and gentlemen, instead, 2 weeks ago, the airspace of Poland, our neighbour and ally, was seriously violated by Russian drones. A flagrant violation of sovereignty, international law and direct threat to shared Euro-Atlantic security, equally as we saw it also in Estonia and Romania. I want to express my firm support and solidarity with our allies. The door open to negotiations should never be mistaken for weakness or an invitation to further violence. My country calls for too early peace. We call on commitment and concrete steps in line with the result of summit in Alaska. We continue to be ready to contribute to it and to support the guarantees ensuring the future peace that stands the test of time. In the Middle East, after the horrific act of terrorism, Israel has the right to defend itself. Hostages must return home. In Gaza, children and families do not feel safe anywhere, neither in hospitals nor in their temporary shelters. Esteemed leaders, the thin line between legitimate defense and unacceptable suffering is being painfully tested. We must allow access to humanitarian aid for those who need it. We hear the quest by Palestinians to have their own state. And I am proud that Slovakia does not need to make big gestures today, because for more than 3 decades, or 3 decades ago, we have recognized the right of Palestinian people to decide upon their fate. In Bratislava, we already have the embassy of Palestine, and we believe in two-state solution. But this is achievable only at the table by diplomatic means, based on the will to live side by side as Palestine and Israel. The UN must emerge from this as efficient and capable of having impact where it matters most, in the field. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been called upon by our citizens to fulfill our duties in very difficult times. We can no longer sweep issues under the rug or pass the buck. We must respond. Our steps will be measured and we will be judged against it. Slovakia is ready to do its share, also as a candidate for non-permanent seat in the Security Council. Slovakia a peaceful nation in Central Europe with multilateralism deeply in its DNA, we will always support international cooperation, a world based on rules with a strong UN in its heart. No child should be punished for being born in the wrong part of the world.